Welcome. Today's lesson I'm going to do straight from IXL because it's much easier to do here because it's dealing with graphs. And I don't have to take the time to write the graphs down or print them out or anything. And what we're doing, by the way, this is Algebra 1 tab. It's section Q, lesson 6, find values using function graphs. So in other words, functions, mathematical functions that are relating an x value to a y value, or in other words, two numbers together, those x and y values can be graphed as ordered pairs on a graph. Now, this is a linear function, and what it's going to ask us, this whole lesson, what it's going to ask you to do is it's going to give you either an x or a y value. This one's giving us the x value. It's going to ask us to plot the point. So what I do is I go on the x-axis, which is the horizontal. Down here, see the little x. The horizontal till I find a x value of 9, and then I go up or down if it happened to be below, but up until I get to the graph, and I graph that point. Then underneath it asks us what is the y value that corresponds with it. So then I got to look across from the point to find this y value of 8, and I type in 8. And these will get a little harder as far as they won't always be linear, so I'm going to start speeding up a little bit, but just be careful because this one says plot the point of the function with a y value of 4. So now I'm not using the x, I'm going to the y-axis, that's the vertical one with the little y here. I'm going to come down till I get to 4. Now I look left and right because it gave me the vertical point, the y value. I graph that point, so I have a y value 4, but then down here it asks for the x value, so I look down here. It happens to also be 4. Doesn't have to be, but it is. So here's one that's a curve. So it says plot the point on the function with an x value of 2. So I come along here until I find an x value of 2, which is right here. I look up until I find that graph where the graph is meeting this x value or this x vertical line. And I find it has a y value, that point is a y value of 3. Okay, y value of 5, so I come up to the y-axis, 5, go over, graph the point, look down to find my x value of 3. Asking for a y value, well, it's given us a y value of 4, so I go to the y-axis, go over till I find the graph, look down, find the x value is 5. Here, it's given us a y value of 1. So I'm going to go up on the y-axis till I get to 1. It's not off to the right, it's off to the left. It's actually right there. Has one x value of -2. Gives me an x value of 0. X value, that means I'm not moving left or right. Remember, stay on the x-axis, and I'm going to go down till I get to the graph because it's below the x-axis, and that has a y value of -1. Here, it gives me a y value of 4. Now, functions, remember, a y value can actually have more than one x attached to it. So again, if I go to the y-axis, go up to 4, and I look over, there are actually 2 points on that graph that have a y value of 4. So down here, it's kind of a dead giveaway because they have 2 possible spots for solutions of the x value of 1 and an x value of 4. Here, they give us an x value of 7. Now, if they give you an x value, you better never have more than one y, otherwise it's not a function. So anyway, I go here x to 7, I look up, find that point. Oh, look, it doesn't ask us to graph it anymore. So they're going away from actually having you take the time to graph it. All they want you to do is what is the y value when x is 7? Well, there is 7, go up. It would be that point right there, has a y value of 9. So now we're just putting in the other value that goes with the value they give us. So if they give us an x value of -2, all they're going to want is the y value. What's the y value? -2, look down, looks like it also has a -2 y value. Here, an output. So now they don't say y, they say an output. Now remember, output's the y-axis. Output of 6, and that means I'm right here on this point. Again, I don't put a point actually there. I just say, what's the x value? Remember, I didn't move left or right. I went straight up the y-axis. So the x value is 0. But, I notice it gives me two options, because now think about it. If I look over here, this point right here also has a y value, or an output of 6. So this value, y's output, or its corresponding input that goes with this output of 6, is a input, or x value, of -7. Let's see if the order I put them in matters. I don't think it should. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, here we have an output of -4. Outputs y, go down to -4. Look over here. My x value is -9. Already up to 75. So an output of 5, I go all the way up here to 5. Y's output, I only have one input of an x value of -3. Input of 7, go over to 7 on the x-axis, go up. I have a y value of 6. Ooh, this is a cool looking function. And we have an output of -3, so I'm going to come all the way down here to -3, look over, and we happen to have just this one at the tip here, which has an x value of 9. Output of -6, so I come down here to -6. I look over here, it looks like I have an input of 10, but if I look at the other direction, I also have an input of -9. So -9 and 10 are the two inputs that have an output of -6. Here we have f of x. Now this is function notation. It's f of x equals -6, which is saying the y value is -6, the output. So I come down here to -6, I look over, I have an input of -3, but I can further over, I have another point on the graph with an input of -7. So -7 and -3. -7, -3. So just be careful that you realize that when it gets f of x equals, that's giving you your output. Here, what is use this graph of f to find f of 9. So now it gave us the input. The input is 9. What is the output when we have an input of 9? Well, I come over here to 9, which is right here. Looks like the graph levels off and stays flat here. So the output at 9 is 0, because I'm not above or below the x-axis. Here, again, f of x equals 2. That's output. So I'm going to come up here to 2, look over. That point right here has a corresponding x value of 7. Here, output is -6. Come down here to -6. Input is 1. Output is 0. Output of 0. That's way over here. Input is 10. Output is -5. Come down here to -5. Look over. I only have one input of -6. Here we have an output of -1, output of -1. There's nothing over here, but over here we have one point at an x value of -2. We have an output of -5. Come down here to -5. We have an input of 0, because we have a point here, we have a point here, and we have a point here. So that's why they're giving us three possibilities. We have a possible input of -7. Oops, that didn't go in. -7, a possible input of 0, and then another possible input of 5. Again, output of 6, so I go all the way up here to 6. Looks like I have 2 points at a altitude or a y value of 6. We have an x value of -8 and an x value of -6. -8. 6. Output of 3, so I come up here to 3, look over, there's only this one at 10. I have an output of 5, so I come up here to 5. I have one output here at -9. I have another output right here at -7, right there. Oops. And I have one more all the way over here at 10. Last problem, we have an output of 2, so I come up here to 2, look left and right. I have one output, or one point here, one point here, and one point here. Those 3 points had a x value of -9. To -5 and 2. If you have any questions, please bring them to class and I will help you at that point.